Great day, great day, great day, great people. Terrific day. Welcome back to the channel. Like I always say at the head of it, pause, hit the like, turn on the notification bell, subscribe, get in the comments, talk about it. Welcome back to the channel, the Corey Webster Experience. I am your host, IMC Web, Corey Webster. This has been a fun journey. We about 17 episodes in. We had a couple of hiccups, but hey, just like anything that we have going on in this world, you're gonna have some setback, hiccups, adverse situation. We just gotta keep moving forward and learning from them. So welcome to the channel. How you guys doing out there? What's up, Queen?
Hi.
See how I'm dressed? You know when a cowboy see a beautiful lady or a respectable young lady, they tip the hat or they take it off. Shows some chivalry and some gentlemen are still alive. Do you know that? Well, you know it now. You know if the camera can't see you shaking your head. So anyway, another reason why I'm dressed like that, because one half of the Final Four, the men's division, they're headed down to San Antonio for some great basketball. Did you know last year and a few years, San Antonio has ranked as one of the best areas for development of basketball?
I did not know that.
Yep, I would think they have something to do with the Spurs and how, stuff run downhill. So the Spurs have an organization that's used to kind of developing fundamentals, teaching the game. And I would say that because of that, the youth sports play the game a certain type of way. The coaches around there play and coach a certain type of way. So the development is cool. So it's also one of the largest cities in the world, if I'm not mistaken. One of the 5th largest. That's just a random fact. Tans would be proud of me because that's just off the top of the head. You have to Google that. Fact check me. Anybody out there, fact check me. And you can also put what are the 4 other larger cities than San Antonio. But needless to say, we're not going to start off with the boys. Where are we going? To Tampa? The girls are in Tampa? I would have to say it was some great basketball this tournament. And I think, I'll say this too, I think the Cinderella approach is transitioning to a different phase. You know, it's not a whole lot of Cinderella teams. We thought Southern University had a chance. Southern had a chance. They won their first NCAA tournament, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And that was in the women's division. McNeese with Will Wade. They also won their first, made history, NCAA game. But I don't know if the Cinderella story is going to be based like it has been in the past with those teams, you know, mid-major teams and things like that, being able to make a big splash in the tournament. I think it's going to be some of these players that maybe didn't get recruited highly coming out of high school, that maybe went to a smaller or mid-major college, kept progressing and developing their skills, and transferred out in some of these major conferences. We've seen a couple of young ladies that have done it and some of the gentlemen that have done it. So I think that's where the Cinderella thing is going. Anyway, with that being said, let's dive into it. We start off with the Texas Longhorns. Signed, sealed, and delivered. They're in the Final Four for the first time in 30 plus years. Or maybe 20.
2003 was the last time they appeared.
Yeah, 2003 was a great year, especially for the LSU Tigers and the football team. But yes, needless to say, they have made it back to the Final Four this year. And you know how they did it? Defense. In order to get over TCU, they created 21 turnovers to get them over the hump. And TCU had a pretty good team. They had a pretty good run as well, you know, with Van Lit and the team that they was able to gel together. They made history with TCU, first time making it to the Sweet 16, first time making it to the Elite 8. So Texas had to go there and beat a very motivated team, a team that was very inspired to do some great things, and they was able to get over the hump, man, led by Booker, she kind of, I know she wears 35 and she's at Texas, but she kind of giving, I don't want to just, she, in her own right, she's doing a great job, but I don't know what it is. I do see some glimpse of KD in her game. She's a lengthy young lady, and she, can get to a jump shot. She can get to the goal. She's a, 3-level scorer, and she plays defense as well. So she creates a mismatch. Man, I saw her raise up one time and hit a jumper over someone. I'm like, yeah, that looks KD-ish. You know what I mean? And, she's been leading those young ladies as far as, scoring and things like that. She's been leading. But I think the motivation and the inspiration was in the leadership as well come from Rory. Rory was a young lady that 10 months ago she tore ACL. And she was able to rehab back, and I think she was able to come back like a month or two ahead of schedule. So that just says the type of work that she was doing. Shout out to Rory. She was a little emotional after the game, as she should be, because we saw one of our stars from women's college basketball go down with an ACL, and just to see her, Rory, overcome that adversity and make it back to the Final Four is, just a shining light on maybe some things that Juju is going to go through, but also the testament to how a team kept her grounded. They supported each other and helped her along the way on her journey. And now she's found herself, a couple of wins away from a national championship in college. So, there's a lot of adversity to overcome for each of these teams, but there's just some of the stuff that Texas overcome. You can see that. What else they had? Rory was one of the injuries, but they had a couple other little things that they overcome.
Layla had an eye injury. She underwent eye surgery from a detached retina.
Ooh.
Which that was, pretty
significant
serious.
injury, yeah.
Definitely. So with her absence, other members had to step up.
I say this too. That's why a lot of the coaches that I've been around, they always say everybody is preparing like a starter, because again, I don't want to just keep harping on the injury from USC, but you see any given play might be, your last play, because injuries happen. You're playing at a high speed. You're playing at a high level. So if you're a person that's maybe not in the starting lineup, if you're a young kid, you're a person that's not in the starting lineup and you feel that you should be in the starting lineup, keep a positive mindset, a positive attitude in the decision that the coaches are making, as well as supporting your teammate in the position that they're in. But continue to work on yourself to be a better version of yourself. And I guarantee that's a recipe that's going to not only help you become a better player, but it's also going to help the team develop more depth at whatever it is, the position that you're playing. So stay ready. Don't be the person that you complain about wanting to be a starter, or you complain about I should be out there, because that leads to a negative mindset. And when that negative mindset set in and your opportunity do come, because you have been on that negative trail for such a long time with the mindset, when you go out there, you're not able to perform to the best of your abilities, and then you go out there and you ruin your opportunity. So for any young players out there, I know this may be hard because you're supposed to think that you're the best, but you also have to understand that not all the time the very best have to be on the court, or what you think may not be what the coach need at the time. So be a little selfless and know that you can help from wherever the coach put you in there. So that was an opportunity for other players to step up, and we saw those other players step up, whether it was collectively as a group or individuals that rose to the occasion to help their team get over that hump. So shout out to Texas. I think they did a great job of coming into the SEC. I think that was a adjustment period that they had to set in. But I think, as far as women's basketball and even them as a whole, they're kind of making that transition seamless. Coming in the SEC, I think they benefited from, playing against that level of competition and, being able to challenge themselves to be better week in and week out. And I think they're seeing some of the fruit of that hard work now that they're in the Final Four. Before we move on from Texas, I think we also have to shout out TCU and Van Lit. I think Van Lit did a great job of having 2 post-game interviews where she spoke about mental health and things of that nature and self-care. And her last one kind of brought, chills, made your hair on the back of your neck stand up a little bit, almost bring tears to your eye, just as she talked about what she had to overcome and what she went through. And I'm gonna say this, when I first saw her leaving Louisville, I'm like, man, Louisville had been point guard center for a while, producing top guards and things of that nature. But me embracing and understanding the whole NIL and transfer portal thing, I'm like, okay, she's coming to LSU, and I didn't want to have any biasness on it. Like, she's coming to my alma mater. So, man, that give us a great opportunity to look like, go back to back. You know what I mean? We had just won a championship. Angel Reese and a couple other players was leaving. And Alexis Morris had, showed up big in the Final Four down in Dallas at the time when they won it. So I'm like, man, she get to replace some of that. You know what I mean? This is my biasness, because of my alma mater. But then I saw a time there, and I just didn't see the development, and I kind of felt bad for her. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of felt bad for her. Just some of the treatment that I saw was being, threw her away from the sidelines, with Coach Moki and things of that nature. I kind of felt a little, but I'm not in there. I'm not, behind the scenes with them. But I did feel a way about it, just seeing it from a distance as a fan. And for her to reach this point and also transferring after that LSU season and to reach the point where she talked about, she needed a coach to support her. She needed a coach to really motivate her or believe in her in a way where she wasn't even in a place to believe in herself that way. And, it just to let you fans know, to let people know, man, it's a lot that these athletes are going through, even more now with social media, transfer portal, NIL deals that you have, because now the expectation is rising on them. And to see her talk about that openly, I think she should be commended, and we should, always keep all of these individual players in our prayers and our thoughts, especially if we're a fan of the game. Always want to make sure that they are in a mental space that is conducive to whatever the things that they have going on in their life, so they can be successful at it. But for any young person out there that's having those thoughts, because she talked about being some dark moments where she's not wanting to be here, but she also did a great job of thanking God for those moments, because she says, that helped her become the woman that she is today. So I just wanted to take some time to, shout out for that, and her support system, her family, her coaches, her teammates, how they all came together and they was able to do something very special this year that is actually going to go down in history, especially for TCU. And I think with that type of mindset, she's going to be successful in whatever she do coming forward. You know what I mean?
Yes. She talked about some dark moments, and it's awesome to see that the light has definitely overshadowed the darkness. So, I wish her well.
Yeah. I know it's a little heavy, as we talked about it, but I just think that was important to, because we talked about mental health, a few episodes ago. So we want to make sure that we highlighting that, especially if a kid, I want to say, had a breakthrough. They was in a place, and you talked about them being in a better place, shining light on it. So I definitely want to shine light on it as we move forward. We're going to talk about these UConn Huskies. Would you say that the Huskies are the favorite, even in the midst of South Carolina maybe going back to back?
I think so.
Or even in the midst of UCLA being the number 1 overall seed?
Yes.
I would like to know from everybody out there, why wasn't UConn considered to be a number 1 seed? Is it just because the SEC is that powerful that they're going to have 2 teams, and that the conference that UCLA and USC plays in was the Big Ten now? Fact check me. Is that powerful? Because I just thought about, UCLA got the overall #1 seed, and they won the conference tournament. They didn't win the regular season conference championship. That went to USC because USC beat them twice in the regular season. But they beat USC in the Big Ten championship game. And they got the #1 overall seed. I just think that, just tell me your thoughts on that comment, on that topic right there. Because I'm also going to say this. This is what I'm leading to. And you can fact check me on that. What conference they play. I think it's the Big Ten. But I'm also going to say this. I think UConn is using that as motivation. Like, you overlooked us. We the #2 seed. As you can see, they're the only #2 team or the #2 seed that's still in the championship. Now, I know people can say that USC wasn't with their full roster, and I understand that, you know what I mean? But I'm just speaking on what's happening currently right now. I think that would have been a great game to watch. It happened earlier this season, and UConn got the best of them. So it would have been great to see the rematch. I would have liked it in the Final Four, but we got it in the Elite Eight, and we got it without Juju. But UConn just look like they're motivated by being that #2 seed, and look like you overlooked us. You know what I mean?
UConn is in the Big East.
I know UConn's in the Big East, but I'm talking about UCLA and USC. I think they're in the Big 12. Yeah, I know UConn in the Big East. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think they're, the conference changed so much. They changed too, because they used to be in the Pac-10, Pac-12. You know what I mean? I'm trying to keep up with them, but forgive me. Somebody told me that, hey man, you only know the SEC anyway. You know what I mean? So it's all good. So yeah,
they're in the Big Ten.
Big Ten, yeah. See, I was right. Fact check me.
Show you.
I was right.
But speaking of
Big Ten or Big East?
UConn,
yep, I like it.
Post-game interview, Scott Van Pelt told Gino, hey, the underdog, hold up. You usually don't hear UConn as an underdog.
Yeah, I don't hear that, man. Yeah, so that's what I was saying,
So he was almost trying to, Scott, I'm going to get your mind right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I just see that. But, we living in a betting world now. So we got to have an underdog. We got to have this, the whole thing going on. I just don't see UConn as being an underdog. I saw UConn as a team that had to overcome a lot of injuries early on. And what I mean by early on, not just this year. Paige had missed significant time for an ankle injury and a knee injury. She had an ACL, right? So she missed a year. Another young lady, I forget her name. I can't pronounce her name. Let me see that.
Her last name is Fudd.
There you go. She missed, with, I think she had 2 knee injuries, right? So, these are some girls that are, man, putting up some great numbers this year. Paige, I think she has the highest point in 3 games.
Yep.
100 and some points. She, went for 30-something, 3 games back to back. And that's the highest amongst any player that ever played in the NCAA, tournament. So that just show you how, and I like how efficient they do it. I was able to run the Chin series as I want to say a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. And I remember the first time that we played against the Chin series, it was against Zach Randolph, AAU team. And Zach Randolph, in our mind, we seeing Zach Randolph as being this, post player because of his height and his size. He did not go down in the post. He was up right around that 3-point line and popping, setting backdoor screens. He was passing the ball efficiently. That shot right there, which is a 3-pointer at our age, but it became the 3-point line in the NBA is further back is 23 feet. But that 19, 20-footer for him, when he got to the NBA, I watched him make that at 13, 14 years old. And I remember man, that's a beautiful offense. I remember telling my dad, man, look like they got 7 people on the court, with the backdoor cut and the screening, and they were just making the right read. So I remember we implemented that. You have to go out there and learn that. We implemented that, and it became a beautiful thing to see, especially from a basketball IQ standpoint. And now, a couple of teams that I have coached, I have implemented that. Now, it's hard to coach because a lot of players, a lot of parents, a lot of coaches can't coach it, can't teach it, and it's a lot of teaching that goes into understanding how to make these reads. So I say that to say, man, they run it beautifully. I call it the UConn, the Chin series. Some people call it Princeton. But they did a great job of running it. Any little inclination of not closing out the proper way when the ball is in the air, or anybody that's not being totally honest and going for a steal, the backdoor cut is happening and the layup is done, and you can't recover from it. So shout out to them to be able to run their offense efficient as they do. And I think that the players that they have know how to step up strong. She's a freshman. Last night, I'm watching the game and I'm like, she's a different type of freshman. And they showed her parents. I think her daddy played for North Carolina State, Wolfpack, but Will Wade is going. I think her mom played for Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. So, she got a lot of help from my mom. Her mom and dad, I guess, just in the gene pool. But also she talked about how they helped her watch film and ask questions and was able to help her with her, basketball IQ. So when I'm looking at it, I don't really see a freshman out there playing. And, it's just interesting to see because UConn hadn't won a championship since 2016, and that's just not normal for UConn, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's because they had a lot of injuries. A lot of their key players, had injuries. Like I said, Page, like I said, Fudd, too, and that was a lot of, they do a good job of developing and bringing individuals in. So you lose your key parts of it. Sometimes it's hard to get over that hump, as we saw with USC. Losing one of their key players is hard to get over that hump when teams at this stage right now are well-oiled machines. Excuse me. But it'd be interesting to see. I think they're motivated to get back to that level because Paige has never won it, and I think she want to finish her year off with a, because that's the only thing that's setting her apart from Maya Moore, Stewie, and Collier. When you start talking about and it's a lot of girls and a lot of players that played well for UConn that did some great things. But I think, those three we would have to say would be on the Mount Rushmore if you did a UConn Husky Mount Rushmore of women basketball. And I think she can solidify her name in it if she go out and win and go out with a championship this year. But I like Gino as a developer. I like him as a fundamental, teacher type of guy, and he's done, what he's done, phenomenal there, and in women's basketball and basketball in general. I just have to say, women, he just did a great job of it.
Yes, so let's move on to the UCLA Bruins.
Would you say that I feel it? Even though UCLA Bruins is the number one overall seed, I feel like they're the less likely of the four. Just the feel. I'm not talking about numbers. I'm just talking about the feel. Now, they beat my LSU Tigers. But that's just how I feel. I think they got a dynamic player in the young lady. She's 6'7". But I just feel like they can be susceptible to some things, some challenges. Guard play, on how they move around, that I don't see them as dominant as teams like the Huskies or even South Carolina. I just got that feeling about them. So I think this is their first time ever, right? In the NCAA tournament.
Yes. First in the program's history.
Yeah, so, it's going to be some experience there from teams like South Carolina, teams like UConn, that they're going to have to overcome. So that'll be interesting to see how they overcome it, how they, make adjustments to to come out because they got to go against a team that's very motivated. Like I said, they're number 2 seed, you're the number 1 seed. So they coming to show you that, like Gino said, don't call me no underdog, right? To me, that's setting the tempo. To me, that's sending a message out to his team to say, hey, this is how they think about you. So UCLA needs to be paying attention to that. You know what I mean? Just them having the number 1 overall seed is them having a bullseye on their back, as well as they have no experience in this department. And I don't know if they have any player from the transfer portal that may have had experience with other teams in being in the Final Four. But, you know, a possession or two in some of these games is all you need to get over the hump. It's not about how much you win the game by. It's about, you know, just getting the job done and winning it. So I just feel that way. I know UCLA going to go in and they're going to be the team that's predicted to win because of their seed and things of that nature. But I don't think that they can take that light. And I don't think that they will. I think they've made it to this far. So I think the coach is going to do a great job of, they better do a great job of, I don't know it, but they better do a great job of making adjustments, watching the film, preparing for all the things that UConn can throw at them. And not only preparing against what you see on the court, but also they need to prepare for the adjustments that Gino and his staff, because Gino got a nice staff that's been helping them for a long time. They also have to prepare for the adjustments, play chess with them as well, as far as, okay, if we do this, they're going to do this. You can bet your bottom dollar that Gino's going to have some type of game plan, maybe 2, maybe 3, to, you know, affect their 6-7 post player. Whether that's throw a double team at them if they hadn't saw a double team, whether that's put bodies on them, they're going to have some strategies, some type of adjustments. And then once you figure that one out, they're going to throw something else at you, right? And I think UCLA needs to have those similar strategies when it comes to, you know, putting together a plan to get Paige Becker, to get strong. I feel to get Fudd. I feel like you kind of have, and I don't want to compare, but in just talking about the UCLA Bruins, I'm jumping ahead of myself. UConn to me have the weapons and they know how to use their weapons, almost like the Duke Blue Devil men's are working this year. And now UConn been doing it this way. They ain't just started that this year. I'm just saying just the feel of it. Those teams looks compatible in how they utilize their bench, their players. They play their roles. They know how to step up big in those times. So all that to say, UCLA, number 1 seed, they're going to have their hands full come this weekend with UConn. Any players you want to talk about? Who's those individual players?
Yes. We can talk about Lauren Betts. She had several double-doubles in the tournament. So, I mean, she's someone, hey, you got to watch out for. Also, Gabriella. Definitely another pivotal player. She had 18 points against LSU.
You had to say that, you know. I don't even think they wanted to know that. To be, I'm just picking. You know, I'm just picking. Yeah, they got some good guard play, and you know, they done made it thus far, so they don't want some decent games. Other than USC, I don't know the significant wins that they got this year. UCLA. You know, playing their conference, but I would say that they hadn't played against the Huskies. I just have to say that. So I ain't gonna hold them. Yep. So, you know, all the girls, I hope they do well, but we gotta talk about the defending champs. And you can fact check me on that. We gotta talk about the defending champs and what they're doing, looking to go back to back. That only happened, I think, 2 other times. And I think UConn did it And I think, I don't want to lie to you, UConn went back to back. And I think Tennessee Volunteers went back to back. When you wasn't even born this time. Back in 1996, 1997, If you was born, you still wet behind the ears, breast smelling like Similac. So the Gamecocks have an opportunity to do that this year. They have an opportunity to go back to back. What are your thoughts on that? I felt going into the tournament, Gamecocks were looking strong, and there was a point where, they was beating people by 20 or more points, double digits, and then something kind of just happened. Maybe the Sweet 16 or maybe even right before the Sweet 16, where it wasn't as well all as it looked going through the SEC in the SEC tournament. I don't know if, teams had figured it out because they lost in the SEC championship game. No. I know they had to flip a coin in order to see who won it between them and Texas. And ultimately, we got it. But they lost against Texas in the championship game, right? If I'm not mistaken, or did they?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't watch so much basketball. I enjoy it. Anyway, they had some significant losses, too. They have one of their star players out, ACL injury. Her name is Watkins.
Ashlyn
Watkins, she's out. She tore ACL. And her left knee when that was on your birthday? Yep. January 28th. So they miss her because she was a tremendous part of their front court. She was a young lady that got rebounds offensively, defensively. She was a big part of their front court. Now they have some other girls that stepped up and played big. But you can never just replace somebody, especially presence once they're made it. I think their leadership, some things that you just can't calculate by a stat sheet. You know what I'm saying? It looked like Coach had got on Malaysia. Pronounced Malaysia what? Malaysia? Mm-hmm. How you pronounce the last name?
Full Wally.
Yeah, it looked like she pushed her, she challenged her. And when I say get on, I don't mean in a negative way. Like she challenged her, like, okay, let's get this game going. You know what I mean? And she responded back. I think she had like maybe 3 points at the time, 3 turnovers, and then she finished strong. It'd be interesting to see if they can get that back going, how it was, SEC championship, SEC play-wise, you know what I mean? Because they're going to need that. You're going against who? Texas, right? Yeah, SEC versus SEC, so they're familiar with each other. So what adjustments will we see? This is not a team that, we hadn't played all year. You done played each other 2-3 times this year. So it'll be interesting to see, what adjustments will be made, what strategies coach is going to take. Because not only is a game on the court, I always tell players, it's a game outside of it, It's a chess match going on with offense, coach versus coach, offense versus offense, defense versus defense, throwing different things at them, you know what I mean? So what coach can make those adjustments on the fly? We always say basketball is a game of runs, but also it's a game of runs and adjustments, right? They may play one way, the zone may be affected, the man may be affected, full court pressure may be affected. And when do you throw those things out? How do you manage the game? I think what South Carolina has going for them, I think they played with a lot of depth this year. So, a lot of females, they got great playing time, so they have a lot of experience. But it'd be interesting to see teams that's very, very, very familiar with each other, how they battle throughout this Final Four. Who you think is the freshest coach? I know you got some people that's been thrown around out there, but I've seen some coaches step up their dressing game as of recently. Don't want to be fresh on the sideline.
Yes, so out of this Final Four core?
Well, Coach Gino going to be dressed with his blazer on, his sports coat.
Oh, okay. All
right. That's kind of his staple, you know what I mean? His glasses. He's not going to have no different type of glasses. He's kind of staple, more traditional, you know what I mean? So he's going to be clean. It's gonna be, traditional clean sports coat. He might throw a tie on that thing. That's like, over the top. But that's gonna be about it. Coach Dawn gonna be fresh.
I immediately thought about something. Coach Dawn will be.
Not like not with them folks watching. No. We don't want no. I could just see where you're going with it. No.
Precious.
Yeah. She go no. We don't want that. She's just gonna be fresh. She's gonna be cleaned. Shout out Frank Walker. She's gonna be cleaned with a T.
Okay.
She's gonna be cleaned. She gonna have and in her own way, she gonna have her beads on by young girls that's inspired to play the game of basketball or that's looking up to her. You know what I mean? She always representing them. She always gonna have that ball up sheet of paper in her hand. I'm guessing that's a game plan sheet, and she don't mind. You know what I mean? I remember some girls was taking pictures and they start throwing up their fingers and stuff, and she was that little sheet of paper. Put them hands down. So now, UCLA look like they take the whole UCLA approach. You know what I mean? Where they team issue gear on the sideline, and Texas coach. Well, now Texas assistants gonna be. They gonna be
like them boats. I mean, and they might be fans of basketball as well, so they will be watching. But yeah, they are definitely fly.
Yeah. Texas assistant got to shout them out. They're gonna be fly on the sideline. Texas coach is gonna kind of be like sports coat suit, maybe a tie on. That's about it. You know what I mean? I ain't mad at it. But them young ladies sitting on the sideline. I think they got one male too. I don't want to overlook him. They be fresh though. She was almost, the face of
Correct.
Coach Bay or whatever it was called, and Teacher Bay, Coach Bay, the young lady from Texas. So, all that being said, do you have any picks? You gonna give a prediction? Picks? What about your bracket? Did your bracket win? Or was the bracket? See, my bracket had won, but what happened was I forgot to turn it in.
Cap.
And but I woulda, you know how it happened. My dog, was running through the house and come on, my bracket would have won, but I slipped my mind to press the send button. Did your bracket? Bracket is busted. Ain't nobody bracket got it.
Did not. But I'm going for. I'm gonna say let's see South Carolina and UConn in the championship.
All right. Any prediction with who's gonna bring it home, or you just gonna leave it?
I want them to surprise me.
They're gonna be surprised. They definitely gonna surprise because they're gonna be out there working. I like for all the young ladies to just go out there and play well. Pray they can stay injury free. Anybody have any injuries right now? Heal up for next year, for the the future. I'm gonna say. I think UConn is motivated and inspired to finish this thing. You know what I mean? I'll just be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if it's going to be a bit overwhelming for UCLA making it thus far. I don't know if it's going to be a bit overwhelming for Texas. It has made it here since 2003. I think UConn has a lot of depth. I think South Carolina has a lot of depth. I think that plays a significant role, especially going this far into the season. So I can agree with, seeing South Carolina and UConn being in the championship. But I also think that I'm going to go a step further and say UConn is that motivated to not allow them to go back-to-back because they want to continue with them being one of the few that did that, because they have a say-so in this year. So I think they're going to use all that for motivation. Paige haven't won it yet. You know what I mean? To start like a new legacy underneath this regime, underneath the NIL transfer portal regime. And I say they get back to it and they win the championship this year.
Okay.
You ready to move it on to the boys?
Yes, let's get it.
SEC is well represented in both, right? SEC got 2 in the females division and they have 2 in the male division. Now they got to cancel each other out in both divisions, but it is what it is. It just shows you how competitive the SEC is. The men's division, Florida Gators. And I was telling you about that Cinderella story kind of shifting. Clayton Jr. went to Iona. Wasn't highly scouted coming out of high school. Went to Iona, kept working on his skills, ended up at Florida. Now he's All-American at Florida, and he's putting up some crazy numbers this tournament. You know what I mean? You hear some flashes of people saying, man, he looked like the college version of Steph Curry. And I'm not trying to, compare him to anybody. I'm just saying that's what a lot of the talk has been throughout this tournament. They knocked off Norfolk State. They knocked off Seton Hall, Kansas, Jayhawks, and then they beat a well-coached, not to say Kansas, Jayhawks is not well-coached or any of those other teams are not well-coached, but then they went on to beat Coach Izzo and Michigan State to make their Final Four appearance. So the guard has been clutch, though. Walter has been clutch. They also have some other players that, they're playing good as a unit right now. And they've been playing the SEC, who has had a lot of talent. SEC had 14 teams that made the SEC, 14 teams that made March Madness, the NCAA tournament. So that's very competitive. What you got? Any thoughts on Florida and what they have done to get here?
They've been looking like, hey, we are here and we want to make a name for ourselves.
They're number one seed. So, they're not here by surprise. They're just taking care of business.
They achieved, 34-4?
Yep, a nice record. Mm-hmm.
And, they had a nice run. They defeated Norfolk State, UConn, Maryland.
I don't think they played Maryland. Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so they had a nice run. So I think they are prepared. I really, it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think also just is their 6th Final Four appearance in school history. So, the Gators, the former players and things of that nature, kind of bringing some of that nostalgicness back to the organization, to the program. 1994, 2000, 2006, 2007, because remember they went back-to-back, 2006, 2007, and then they 2014. So, they're back like they never left. Mm-hmm. But they have to overcome Auburn Tigers. How you think they fare? Now, again, this is another thing that I tell you about. These teams are very familiar with each other.
Right.
They're very familiar. Oregon has a 27-5 record, playing in the SEC. So Florida and Auburn has played 2 to 3 times this year. So they're familiar with each other. That's interesting. I'm telling you, when they're familiar with each other, what rankles, we know each other. I know you. What rankles we going to throw at each other? What adjustments are going to be made from a coaching standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, that will help us get over the hump? It might not just be physical, right? And how many different packages we have to throw at the other team just to throw them off? Can we add some window dressing to get to certain things? Do we double team? Do we send a hard trap? There's a lot of things. Do we get the ball out of some of these playmaker hands so they can't make the plays? But Auburn and Florida should be a very good game. And like I said, we know that for a fact. An SEC team will be playing for the national championship. That is a fact.
True.
That is a fact. So, let's move on, man. Houston. The Houston Cougars. Now, Houston, I think they have never won a national championship.
Really?
I didn't know that. I'm not going to lie. When I heard, my dad and people that passed down the information about the Phi Slamma Jamma with Clyde Drexler and Akeem Olajuwon playing there, I thought they had won a national championship, but they actually lost in a crazy finish against North Carolina State. So they have an opportunity to do something that hadn't been done in program history. I think they have a coach that's been coaching there, not just coaching there, has been coaching for a long time. He's a very knowledgeable person. He's been around a lot of basketball. He knows a lot of basketball. So I think they have what it takes to get them over the hump with the experience, just because of the coaching and stuff like that they've been around. They compiled a 30-2 record. They dominated the Big 12 conference. They played stellar defense. A lot of people say, what? Defense wins championship, offense wins game. They play a very aggressive, physical, trapping defense. And they also understand how to help the helper. So when you do any type of pick and roll, send any type of screen, ball screens, they normally attack the guy that's dribbling the ball. So you have to understand how to make fast, quick decisions. And the guy that you think is going to be open is normally the farthest away from the ball. So you have to not only make that decision with a 6'10" to 7'2" guy in front of you, with shot clock, with having two people on you, you have to also, they're going to send a guy to help the 6'10", 7-foot guy, man. So you got to find that a long pass. And a lot of people throw the ball away, and they create a lot of turnovers with that type of defense. And it'll be just interesting to see how they're facing Duke will adjust to that type of pressure. Because Duke have a lot of lengthy guys, and they're very fundamentally sound. So I'm going to be watching to see how they, adjust to it, and to see what things that Duke do to them to make them uncomfortable. But they have a couple of players that are key players. L.J. Cryer, he transferred from Baylor. He been the, senior scoring guard leading it. They also have a guy that transferred. It's unique, too, because the guy that transferred to them, I forget his name, but he wears a jersey number 7. The guy that transferred to him, they got him. He had never played in the NCAA tournament. He was a scoring guard, but he was a pass-first scoring guard. So I just thought that was interesting to see how they went after a person, and they knew those little details to bring along with him, doing a great job with their scouting department to bring this player along. And he fit in good with, their current roster, and they gelled quickly together. And when they needed him to score, he stepped up in a big way to score. Actually, to get him to the Final Four. And maybe they lead it. He hit like 6 3-pointers. I forget his name. Because they beat a Gonzaga team, a Purdue team, and a very talented Tennessee team that have been putting a lot of pressure on individuals this year to make it to the Final Four. So, will Houston finally get over the hump and get their first championship in program history? Only time will tell, but they got to go through who we talking about next.
Duke Blue Devils.
Duke Blue Devils. I just think that they're the favorite. You know what I mean? Potentially they have the first pick of the NBA draft on their team in Cooper Flags. May have another 2 or 3 top 10 picks in, I can't even think of the 7'2" guy name, but he's from, come on, you're supposed to be the name guy.
South Sudan.
South Sudan, yep.
The center. Kwame M.
Yeah, Kwame. I'm not gonna butcher your name, but they play so well together. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people don't like the Duke Blue Devils because of maybe the Christian Laettner shot against Kentucky or whatever the case may be, or how they play the game. But for the most part, they play the game how it's supposed to be played. And I'm not gonna say how it's supposed to be played. They play the game a nice way. You can see that they're developing. You can see that they make changes. They communicate. They see the game the same way. Guys that's on the court. They had a couple of transfer guys that came in and was able to add some depth to the program. But you can see even when Cooper Flag went down with his injury, those guys just stepped up. You know what I mean? So you never know who's going to have a big game. I don't think they care who have a big game. I think Cooper Flag is in the same position as Paige Becker as far as cementing his name in the Mount Rushmore of Duke Blue Devils. Guys like Grant Hill, guys like Christian Laettner, guys like Jay Williams. I think, those are guys that came there, they won, either one national championship or even 2 national championships. You know what I'm saying? And he have that capability. Now, they had a lot of people that came there in his position, like the Zion Williamsons, the Jason Tatums, the Kyrie Irvings, but they didn't get a national championship. So him having that national championship and potentially being the first pick of the draft, I think that cements him in Duke history as one of those Mount Rushmore guys. You know what I mean? I don't like to compare guys. I'm not saying the other guys wasn't talented. I'm just saying that, they didn't get the job done. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, Kyrie was hurt a lot of the time. Zion blew out a shoe and, you know what I mean? So for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. So I'm not saying, that one is better than the other. I'm just saying that putting his, footprint on Duke Blue history can happen with, 2 more wins. But they have a lot of weapons. They have Knipple, they have Prosper, they have James, they have Foster. All these guys show up big, make big shots, selfless, play great communication defense. So it'll be interesting to see these 2 teams go at each other, being Houston and Duke, because I think Houston is a very disciplined team. I think Houston does a great job of creating more opportunities with how they attack the offensive board, with the tip outs that they get from, the strategies that they teach. Go get the ball up. If you can't grab it, tip it out to a player. So that presents opportunities. I know for a fact that Duke is going to have a plan. Now, whether that plan is successful, how they keep those guys off the boards and limit their offensive rebound capability, that's going to be interesting to see. But I feel like this is going to be, not to take nothing away from the other game, this is going to be a heavyweight chess match going on between these 2 guys. And I think, again, like I said about prediction, are you giving any prediction? Like I told you, I had a bracket that I did. And I'm telling you, and the fish had got out of the fish bowl, and I couldn't turn that bracket in.
That's what it was?
That's what it was. See, what had happened was, when somebody says, see what had happened was, there's a whole bunch of fujiginess coming after that. Shout out Dave Merrick, huh? Mm-hmm. Everybody ain't gonna be too fond of that right there. You know what I'm saying? But now, any prediction that you make?
I'm gonna go with the underdog.
The underdog? Who the underdogs? You know what Coach Gino just told you about the underdogs. So who are the underdogs?
I mean, because everybody's favoring Duke.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Houston.
That's your pick and you sticking to it.
Yep.
Nobody heard you. You just told it to the world. Nobody knows. I'm gonna go on a limb and say I think it's 2 completely different approach too. I think Houston may have some of it, but Duke and what's the coach? I forgot the coach name for Duke. He played at Duke. He had been a long time assistant. I don't remember coach's name. I actually met Coach. John Shire. I'm sorry. I like how he's using the mental approach to get his kids and to get peak performance out of the guys. And he's vocal about it. You know what I mean? Duke had always had this, the nutrition table and the science behind what their guys do once they come in. I think they do a great job. I think they do a great job of even showing some of that too. How the guys have training table, how they have study hall. And I think this is another component to what all teams eventually will have as a mental health side of it, you know what I mean? And I like to call it a software side of it. not tooting no horn, but you know, I'm getting set up right now to be able to do that for individuals, not just individual players, but I also can do it for organizations, teams, clubs, and you know, businesses as well. You know what I mean? I think there's a mental side to it that we need to approach not only with the physical side of how we work, but also the software side of how we program ourselves to, you know, get the best out of our employees, our players, our families, and it can be done in a way where we have mindful communication and ways that we can show love and empathy to each other. It doesn't have to be the whole tough love approach. So I think with that being said, I would love to see that be successful. So I think Duke Blue Devils is gonna not only stop Houston from getting history, they're also going to beat one of my SEC teams that's going to show up on the other side. So Duke Blue Devils take it all. UConn take it all from the women's side, and the rest is history. Any thoughts?
No, those are your picks. So we'll see this weekend what happens.
True. So that's our show. Like I always say, anything you didn't like, anything we needed to add or we forgot, make sure you put it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell when we posting new videos. Right now, we have been consistent. We posting twice a week. I'm not going to say what days, but we have been posting twice a week. So I appreciate all you out there for making this, you know, enjoyable for me and my family. You know, let's keep it going. Let's keep running it up. And hopefully we can provide a perspective that you guys can hang your hat on and share some light to some things that maybe you knew or needed some confirmation, or maybe you didn't know, and now you know. So thanks for tuning into the channel. Keep it locked.